Welcome back to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And for those of you who don't know, Carter C is just sort of a moniker that my real name is Carter, but C is my middle initial, and I feel like it flows more, Carter C. And my last name has too many syllables, and so I just go with Carter C. Maybe it's a little more memorable than just Carter. Who knows? Maybe not. But thanks for coming back and watching another episode of the House Husband Diaries. So it is Sunday, and it is another day to talk about travel. So you already knew that, as always, because you see the title of these videos. But what I'm going to talk about today is my experience in the spring of 1996 when I went to Appalachia for the first time. And when I say Appalachia, I mean like the backcountry Appalachia. So 1996, I was in high school, and my high school had a 40-hour community service requirement. So in order to graduate from my high school, you had to have certified 40 hours of community service to help you become a well-rounded human being, an adult that hopefully, helps other people later down the road. So at 15, 16 years old, I guess I was 15 at this time, 40 hours is a lot. 40 hours to give to someone else and not get some loving back, you know what I mean? Your hormones are raging and you want to do sports or video games or read books. I don't know, whatever your passion was at 15, it probably wasn't doing community service. So that requirement seemed like a lot. It really it seemed unnecessary. You already ask us to do all this homework, read all these books I don't like, do all these math problems that nobody's ever going to ask me to do again. You're really asking me to do a lot all the time. Now you want me to do 40 hours of community service. I get it. That's not the way to look at it, but at the time, that's how I was looking at it. So I don't know how it came about, but someone said, hey, if you do something we call the Appalachian Service Project, then you can get all 40 hours of your community service requirement done in 1 week. So you go on spring break and for a week, and you go do, it's sort of like Habitat for Humanity, and you go do whatever projects are needed. And then, you go with a girls' school, because I went to an all-male high school. So you get to, spend a week with some girls, and nice selling point. And then you get all your community service requirement done. Bada bing, bada bang, badang. So this was my sophomore year, and I'm thinking, okay, I get 3 weeks for spring break. I know. We can talk about that later in the comments, but we got a 3-week spring break. I give up 1 week, and I still have 2 weeks left. I get to spend it with some girls from another girls' school that I'll see at mixers and stuff. And then I'll knock out my entire community service requirement, and I'll coast my last 2+ years of high school with that already in the bag. I'm sold. I'm totally doing this, right? So also, now that we're in 2020, mind you, the show Moonshiners, if you've ever seen that, obviously had never come out. I mean, this is 24 years ago. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into in terms of going into backcountry Appalachia in the U.S., You just think sort of everything is like how you've grown up, the places you've grown up, the people that you've grown up with. There's just very little understanding. And even I went off to a boarding school, and so I had a lot of people from a lot of different areas, a lot of different countries, a lot of different backgrounds. Even still, I just didn't understand, like I'd never experienced Appalachia. And for those of you who've never been to like real Appalachia, not, skiing somewhere in West Virginia or what have you. Appalachia, for the most part, is funded by coal. And so when you talk about politics and the left-leaning folks want to get rid of coal because it hurts the environment, there's a whole people group in the United States who make their living, and it is a meager living. Now the coal mine owners are not they are not earning meager wages, but the coal miners themselves and the construction workers and the people that kind of live and work and run the stores make a very meager existence. But it is only because of coal. So without coal, you basically lose the main source of income for a large portion of a very poor area. And I had no idea how poor this area was before 1996, before I went on the Appalachian Service Project. So we got to tour a mine and see all the big machines. I like to watch Gold Rush on, I think that's the Discovery Channel. And, you see the big rock trucks and the big excavators. And then, you see all these just ginormous open pit mines with these ginormous dump trucks and stuff that have stairwells up the front grill and, the tires. And I mean, we had a 15-passenger van and you could like drive it almost under these big dump trucks. I mean, they're huge. And it was just, that was a really neat experience. But I think, as much as I love the environment, I love to be outside, I love to travel, obviously is why I'm doing these videos. But it strikes me as very insincere when I hear politicians talk about getting rid of the coal industry for environmental reasons when you've gone and experienced life and shared life with people that live in Appalachia. They are really good people. They are mostly hardworking, and I mean, they're bad apples in every group, right? But my experience there as a teenager was one of people that are very prideful of where they're from, of who they are, their history, and of their hard work. And they put in a lot of work in these mines, and it's not for their health benefits. So taking away their source of income because of some pie in the sky idea that somehow that is going to heal the world of all of the environmental issues is just, it's nonsense. It's silly. It's taking something from people, from your neighbors, from fellow Americans, and not caring about those people. Now, that's obviously a semi-political soapbox, but I share that because of my experience when I was 15, 16, 17, because the spoiler on this travel video is that I went back. I had such an amazing experience, which I'll get to in a second, that I went back and I led the trip my junior and senior year because I was so touched by this area by the people of this area that I didn't know existed in the U.S. So basically, what we did is we left our school, met up with the girls. We show up at this place, this center where we stay. It's pretty typical, like any kind of camp or whatever. You got the kitchen and some bunk beds or whatever. And, the boys are down here and the girls are down there. And then basically you have teams, and they made them, some boys, some girls, and a leader, and then you go out and they have projects. And so our project for that week was a little house that was basically, I don't know if it was a mobile home, but it was similar. I think it was sturdier than a mobile home, but I really don't remember. It was so long ago. I just remember that our project was the roof had caved in, and there was this problem because they had built like this addition, And whoever built the addition built it taller than and when I say an addition, I'm talking like a 1-room addition. Like it was not like, oh, this whole wing of a house. I'm talking like it was a very meager, very small house. It's everything you need, but it was tucked away, and it was out there. It was way out there. And so you basically, they built this addition onto the back of the house or the trailer or whatever, and because that roof was taller and squared off, water would pool, and then it had rotted out the roof and caved in. And it was this couple, it was a young couple, had a baby, a new baby, like infant, and the husband was a steel worker, and he had to go to like St. Louis or Chicago to find work where they were building high rises, because he was like a steel walker. He was one of those guys that worked way up in those buildings, which I would never do. It's crazy. So that just shows you that the existence that people make off of coal isn't for everybody. It's not a lot. But then, this guy was trying to be industrious, and so he was having to leave his infant child, and I think she was 19, the mother, and I was like 15. And so in my experience, 19-year-olds were supposed to be going to college and doing other stuff and not having a baby and living in a house that didn't have a roof in the infant's room, or where they kept the crib. And so obviously I don't have kids, right? Because I can't think of those words. So that was just very eye-opening to me, that it wasn't just, okay, you're 19, you finish high school, you're going to go to college, you're going to kind of do this whole path, and that's not the path for everyone. I know that now, but at the time that was very unusual for me. It was different. So this girl's 19. She has a baby, an infant, and her husband leaves 5 days a week to go work, hours and hours away, to make enough money for them. I mean, that's real life. That's real life for millions and millions and millions of Americans, and for billions of people all over the world. And so it struck me that, here we are, and we have all these advantages and we're, as Americans, but then as a subset of Americans, that, hey, we're going to nice schools and we're here to help out. And here I am, such a crappy person that I was looking at, spending one of my 3 weeks of spring break, and that was such a hardship. And, and I had such a poor motivation, or my motivations for doing this were so poor. And yet now that I'm here, I'm faced with somebody who is so thankful and appreciative of the time that we're taking to out of our, daily lives, to spend a week helping her with her house and her family. And so what we ended up doing was building a bunch of, or digging a bunch of post holes, and then building a frame and building a roof over top of the entire structure. So that's how we didn't actually finish it, because that was more work than we could do in a week. But it was really fascinating, because here we were, not trained carpenters by any stretch of the imagination. We had some semi-plans, kind of like, this is what we want you to do. The people that were heading up the project stuff, they were like, this is what you do. We didn't just show up and like go, well, I think we're going to build a roof over all of it. I mean, that's what we were told to do, but we didn't really have a whole lot of direction. Now, maybe they have a lot more direction. I don't even know if this organization still exists, honestly. So it was just really, it wasn't, I'm trying to think of the way to say it. Like, we did the best with what we had, with the knowledge and the materials and everything. Everybody was doing the best they could. And I felt like somehow we were letting this girl and her baby down, because we weren't going to finish the roof in 1 week. anyway, when we had decent weather from what I can remember. I don't know if it rained one day or not, or two, who knows, but I remember a number of days being sunny, and we got a decent amount of work done. And I just remember that it really changed how I looked at service and how I looked at, neighbors. And I think the biggest thing that changed my mindset was how appreciative she was. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I'll tell you this story, that the last day, so we would bring our food and we would work. We'd get on site early and we'd stay till I don't know what time. And we'd just have lunch there. So whenever it was time to break for lunch, we'd pull out the coolers and, drink, the Kool-Aid or whatever we made in the kitchen the morning that we left, eat our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and just kind of hang around. And she would come out and talk to the girls. And I don't really remember talking to her much, but she would talk to the girls in the group. And in the last day, we all show up and we're talking to her and we're like, yeah, this is the last day. It was that morning. And then, or I guess it was kind of around lunch. And she goes, oh no, I forgot to tell you not to bring lunch. And she's like, I have a surprise. And so this car came and it was like Little Caesars pizza or something. I don't remember maybe it was Domino's, but regardless, she had ordered us a couple of pizzas to share between, the group. And she started to cry and she said, I know it's not much, but it's what we can afford. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your lives and coming to help us. And, all of it is just greatly appreciated. And, so I just wanted to buy you lunch or, just a couple of pizzas. And I know it's not going to go very far. And she was right, because I was growing still. And so I'm glad we brought our lunches and I could supplement the piece of pizza or two with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I say that, just kind of joking, but in reality, it was just so, for a 19-year-old, girl to be in that situation as a mother, who doesn't have her husband with her most of the week in a house that needs a lot of work, and to be able to help out in some small degree. And then for her to want to give us pizza, her thanks was enough. We had paid to go on this trip, we were doing all this other stuff, but we didn't need her to spend the 10, 15, $20, whatever it was, to buy those pizzas. We wanted her to save her money, but she also wanted to show her appreciation in some small way. And so, not to get too religious on you, but it reminded me of a parable that in the Bible that I think it's something about the lady who gives like a penny, and she truly gave more than all these rich people that were dropping bags of money because she gave all she had. And that just really kind of resonated with me, that it's not really the size of the gift that you give, it's really the heart with which you give it, and it's not the amount, it's just kind of your mindset, and if you give what you have, then you've truly given it all. And obviously that's not too religious, but it's just something nice to to kind of go out on in this video, is that we all aren't the most talented, we're all not the richest, we're all not a lot of things, but if we give to each other what we have, and we go travel and have these experiences where we interact with people, and it may just be our neighbors or the next town over, or this just across the city or town where we live. But I think that was kind of a microcosm when I talk about the politics and stuff in my other videos, that really in all of the divisiveness and all the, do you vote for this person or that, really what it's about is finding a way to come together as people and say, hey, you're a human being and I'm a human being, and here's what we can do to help each other out, and I may not have a whole lot of time because I'm trying to do this or I'm trying to do that, but what I do have, I can share. And that's really a personal choice. I'm not saying you should make that choice, but I think the world would be better off if we all made that choice, and if we all made that choice more often. And I know it's hard. A lot of people have kids. You got sports. Like, I'm not down in anybody that doesn't do anything like that, or what have you. But I do think that we've gotten into a day and age where we're so focused on ourselves and our careers and our families and all of these things that it's so insular that when we forget about the need for the greater, the wider community. And not only just that in terms of our neighborhood or our city, but also the areas of the country that maybe we don't know so much about, we haven't visited. And so that's where, these videos of travel, they're not all going to be this, sob stories and not have this much impact in life. Don't worry. As I got older and was able to go to other places, we'll be talking about some fun trips and there'll be lighter, topics on travel. But I do think it was a really powerful experience at 15 years old to be able to, the summer before, having traveled around the western half of the United States, and then to travel to Appalachia and see a different way that a different group of Americans live, was really powerful and impactful for me. So if you ever get a chance to go to Appalachia, do any service projects around where you live, I highly recommend it. It's very rewarding. People in those situations that need help don't always ask for it because it can be embarrassing, but they really super duper appreciate it. So anything you can give anywhere, is greatly appreciated by those that are receiving. I know that much. So thanks so much for watching this episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, like, subscribe, do whatever you got to do from that thing, and then comment. Let me know, if you've had similar experiences, if you've had people help you out, or if you've helped other people out. It's nice to know and be able to kind of share those stories. They're always really uplifting, and especially when we start talking about politics and things get divisive and frustrating. We're all, at the end of the day, we're all human, and we're made or created, or however you want to say it, to live in community and to help one another out. So thanks so much for watching this episode of the House Husband Diaries. Until tomorrow, and I have no idea what we'll be talking about tomorrow, but I'll talk to you tomorrow.